Hi, this is James One. It's James, a wine guy, here to talk about Pinot Noir. Now, at first I was like, just how do you tackle this huge subject matter within a very large category? And it was one that I thought you're just gonna have to do multiple videos of this wine, and you just will never have the perfect content because, like the varietal itself, it is not a perfect varietal. So, Pinot Noir. The word Pinot means pine or pine cone. So, if you see this image here, this is a tightly clustered Pinot Noir bunch, and it's beautiful. And not all wine grapes are this clustered, at least in this pattern here. Now, this is a very long-standing cultivated wine. The Romans cultivated this. They called it Helvetia Minor. Now, there are approximately 63 recognized clones, at least by the French. Now, every nation state, at least those that are in the wine trade, have their own definition and recognition of what are wine clones. Now, I did a piece back in 2004, and when I wrote this up, I thought, I don't know if this still stands. So I just really started doing more research. I tweeted out a message wanting to know what maybe the accepted number or the most recognized number, and I got so many different responses. So I just said, well, from my original 46 back in 2004, things can and have changed. Now, a lot of people refer back to this compendium, which is Jancis Robinson's excellent book, The Oxford Companion to Wine. Now, a lot of people reference this online, and while that is a good thing in some respects, it's also a difficult thing to pin down what this number is. I think really the sum of that story is that amongst all clones out there, there might be up to 1,000, but at least 63 by the French have been recognized. And I think that large number is a really good number to start from. It's not too large. It's not in the 1,000 category, in the 100 number range. It's much lower than that. So I think it's a really good number. Now, when you think of clones, you think, am I going to taste these? And that's a hard one to really come about. I haven't really had a tasting where I'm going to do a 777, 667, Pomard, Swan clone, etc. There's just nothing I've ever done. And I think that, there's those out there that are going to say, well, 777 is really popular, and 667 brings everything, all the good things together. It brings some body, brings some lightness, if you will. It brings really beautiful characteristics and aromatics. And so that's really a difficult one to talk about in that regard. All we do know is that maybe someday that, just based on the nature of the Pinot Noir grape, that it may just clone itself out of existence. It may mutate itself and become something else. But that's a curious quality of this grape. It's like the movie in Sideways talked about, which I think was a really well done movie. And on the not so good side was that it really knocked out some categories like Merlot or Syrah, which was unfortunate. And not everybody would agree with that, but a lot of people in some grape communities, wine growing communities, thought so. And I remember on Highway 29, there was a winery that posted a really big poster outside saying, Miles would love our Merlot. And I think that was just in response to, because they were really affected by the popularity of this movie. And when you think of the influence of this movie, Miles was a likable character, even with all his frailties. And that's what Pinot Noir is. It's a wine that is just finicky, frail, difficult, and it's one of the wine grapes that you would find the most difficult to make. It succumbs to every pestilence. Its offspring from its parent are different flavor characteristics. Its yields are really small. It doesn't like too much sun, not enough sun. It doesn't want too much leaf coverage. It doesn't. If it doesn't get enough of that, that's a problem too. There's almost every kind of problem you can have with any wine grape is all in this one particular varietal. You couple that with, say, a champagne or sparkling wine, a style of wine that is something that's extremely difficult to make, and not all sparkling wines or champagnes are Pinot Noir constituent. However, many of them are, unless it's a Blanc de Blanc. Now, couple all that together is you have one of the most difficult wine varietals in a very difficult wine to make. And so I think that's why we love Pinot Noir, and we like champagne, and we like sparkling wine, because they're all really difficult. They come with extreme effort. And so when you taste a successful Pinot Noir or sparkling wine or champagne, you think, wow, we owe it to the planet, we owe it to the winemakers who toiled, and the vineyard workers and manager and the collective working group who put this together. Otherwise, it couldn't be. Now, it's a grape that is just, really profound in its acid signature, and its alcohol can be low or high. It has a very narrow bandwidth of growing possibilities on the planet. While there were some areas in, say, California that were just not really the most prominent areas where Pinot Noir should be grown. And I think it's aligned itself to really, really great regions: the Carneros, Anderson Valley, Russian River Valley, Sonoma Coast, Santa Rita Hills, Santa Lucia Highlands, Oregon, the mothership in France, of course, Burgundy. So when you think of all these things that bring it together and make this wine, yes, it's more expensive. And I think some of the disappointment has been in the past is that one would enjoy a really good Pinot Noir and the next wine wasn't. And that was because it was really hard to keep up with the demand during its uptake. And I think it's back to a level, it's sustainable. It is within the parameters of what's being produced. And it's a wine that is it's a gorgeous wine. Now, this is a wine that, I brought out my props here. I'm going to talk about them and review each of them. Then I decided not to do just one video and, talk about maybe this wine and Pinot Noir, because that content would not necessarily be picked up on an index in Google, for example. So this wine here is what I've opened up. This is Sheer. It is a wine from the Platte Vineyard and Sonoma Coast. So this is a really beautiful wine, which I have in this glass here. And I'm going to talk about it in a different video because I want to highlight that wine specifically. This is Hartford Court. It's from the Green Valley of Russian River Valley. And this is a wine that is really beautiful wine from, I actually had this wine brought to London when I was celebrating a birthday there. And I thought that was really cool. I probably was one of the few people in London who had a bottle of Arundel Hartford Court Pinot Noir. And I'm sure there other bottles do exist in the UK and England and so forth, and Europe. And then the ever-popular Sainsbury. Now, this wine is something that is from the Carneros district. So you have 3 different Pinot Noirs from Northern California. I did have more in my collection. It's just what I randomly pulled out. Now, this is just for propping, just so you could see what these bottles look like. And I'll move them just a little closer so you can see the detail on each of the wine bottles themselves. So every year here in San Francisco, you have Pinot Days, and Pinot Days highlights American Pinot. And you have Pinot Noir from California and Oregon that come to the focus of this tasting. And then this year there were some Burgundies that were entering into the tasting, which I thought was really good as well. So it's a nice way to compare and contrast. And it's a way to think about Pinot Noir individually in its growing zones and not compare them one to another, that the Oregon wines are Burgundian in style. And I think that's really the way to talk about the signature of difference and uniqueness to the Pinot Noir grape. Now, this is just one video of Pinot Noir I'm going to do amongst others because there's so much to cover. Now, I don't know the clones in these particular wines here. I looked them up, couldn't find them. And you really don't need to know specifically. I think you can maybe parse out. Some people definitely claim that, but it's a really difficult one to absolutely hone in on. Now, this wine has, according to their website, Sainsbury, now the only information I could find was on 2006. It may change over time, but I think this might be a good representation of what the clones might be in this particular bottle. It's a Pommard, a Swan, a 115, a 667, and a 777. So these are wines that definitely bring something to the table in a different way. Really great food-friendly wines in our imagination. Jancis Robinson talked about this being the most romantic wine. Some wine writers have said this is the sexiest wine. Whatever words you want to put to this, is just something that's a wine that is extremely evocative, something that is very markedly different. That if you can't tell other red varietals from another, you can definitely take this one out and know that you're drinking Pinot Noir. So I'm going to write each of these up. I'm going to talk about them later. I'm going to do another focus in on Pinot Noir because I think it's really important and essential to do. And for more reviews, please go to jamesthewineguy.com. Please subscribe to my videos on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. and please follow me. And thank you to all the people that responded to me on Twitter today. And really, my long-term goal, and I've been working on this for a number of years, is to write a little more of a comprehensive book, not an exhaustive book, on wine in general. And so that's been a couple years in the making that I've been working on. And it's probably another couple years before I'm finished with that book. But thank you to all those people. Salud.